Hey guys, Mr. Decker here. This is the final lesson of Unit 3, our Games and Animation unit. This is your final project where you will be designing a game on your own. I'm not going to be walking you through the programming step by step like usual. This is going to be your game, not mine. Our essential question: how does following a project guide help with completing a larger program? As always, this lesson is on code.org. Watching the video is mandatory. Let's go over some directions. Number 1, complete the project guide attached at the bottom of this assignment page. So let's look at that. Here's your project guide for planning your game. You'll be able to access it from the bottom. I have instructions on submitting it in case you forget how to do that. But you've got quite a bit here you need to pay attention to. Make sure you follow the directions closely. You'll describe your game. You'll draw your game, like it says here, in bold. If you are not skilled in the ways of Google Docs, then just draw out your game on a separate piece of paper, and I do not need to see the sketch if you did it separately. Sprites and variables. Name your variable here, so score, right? Lives, so on and so forth. At the start of the game, goodness gracious, these are the sprites. I apologize. So name your sprite. So if it's an alien, right? Ladybug, right? 1, ladybug 2, so on and so forth. Tell me what it's doing at the start of the game, where it's located, if it has velocity, making it go down, left or right, whatever, rotation speed, whatever it's doing without an interaction. And then tell me over here how the user interacts with that sprite, how the sprite interacts with other sprites, what it does as the game updates, so on and so forth. Variables, and obviously you don't have to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sprites. You just need enough to make your game work, however your game works. Variables, right? This is your score, lives, right? Health, time, whatever else, right? What it's keeping, tell me what it's keeping track of, and how does that update during the game, and how. Name your functions here and what happens in that function. And then after that, you'll program your game. You'll go to lesson 27 on code.org to create your game. Check your program when you are finished with it to test it and make sure it has everything it needs against the rubric. And then when you're finished, reflect on what you've done. And don't forget to submit this project guide on the assignment page in Canvas when it's complete and you have finished your game project. You don't submit this until you've finished. It doesn't make sense to reflect on a process that you haven't done yet, right? So the next step is follow the step-by-step instructions through each bubble of the lesson to program your game. And then 3, when you have finished programming and testing your game, submit your project guide on this assignment page. This is how I'll know you are finished and can give your game a grade. Your grade will be based on meeting the requirements of the rubric. We'll go over the rubric here in just a second. If you need it, here is a link to all the previous lesson videos I have made for the games unit. If there is a specific aspect of the programming you are having trouble with, you can access the specific lesson video addressing it. You also have access to all the code you have done in previous lessons as a resource. So if I click on that, it takes me to my YouTube page, and specifically my playlist for all the lessons that we've done for this unit. So you've got access to all of that help. You also have your project guide to complete. You also have all of these lessons. So if I'm looking at bubble 1 of my lesson, or if I say I'm on bubble 7 and I'm trying to figure out creating the animations in my animation tab, then I can go look through these old lessons that we've already done and find the one on sprites. right? Here's the video on the animation tab and some skill building lessons that you've already completed there, right? That you can go back to for that, plus the video on that lesson. Let's go over the rubric. The project guide completion and submission is worth 20 points. Your programming must be organized with comment blocks to make the code easily readable, which is worth 5 points. You must have at least 3 function definitions and call functions in your program, worth 15 points. You must have at least 2 backgrounds that are displayed during the runtime, with the change being triggered by a variable, score, lives, or health. 10 points for 2 backgrounds, 15 points if you use 3 backgrounds. The game must have at least 3 sprites that animate, move, or are controlled by the user or player. That's worth 15 points. Your sprites must also interact in some way, collision detection, update the XY location, etc. You must have user inputs with keyboard or mouse controls. That's worth 15 points. And the game must have at least 2 working variables pertaining to lives, health, score, time, whatever. And that's worth 15 points. This video will be posted right here underneath the rubric. So let's take a look at this. You've got the project guide in front of you. You need to finish your project guide before you get going with your programming. So on Bubble 2, you've got some example games you can click on and play them. And you just click the back button to go back to this page. You can keep clicking on games to try them out, right? Notice that they give directions on the screen for how to play the game. You either need to have directions on your screen or directions on your Google slide that you'll be making for the game jam, but worry about the game jam later. First, you need to make your game. All right, create your variables is Bubble 3. You can click Show Me the Block. It shows you which block to use. Show me the area in the code where you need to put it, right? You've already got some comment blocks in here to help you out, but you'll need to continue to put those comment blocks in. Helps if I can spell. And those comment blocks are to help organize your code and tell me what you're trying to do with that part of your code, right? So creating your variables here on Bubble 3. Bubble 4, you're going to be creating your backgrounds, and it shows you where's the function, where's the area in the code to put my function, right? And it highlights this down here, functions area. Show me the block to call my function. So this is very helpful. As long as you're reading the directions and working your way through it, make sure you read every word of this. And here, display boards, now that your backgrounds are working, look at lesson 24, level 10. If you click there, it'll take you to lesson 24, level 10. And you can look at the code there to help you out completing that bubble. Bubble 6. Choosing your backgrounds, again, lesson 24, level 10. Bubble 7. Create your animations. Bubble 8. Create your sprites, right? Make them exist in here. Make them show up on your display area. Bubble 9, sprite movement functions. So making sure your things are looping, making sure everything's moving the way it should be. Bubble 10, user controls, making it so that you can use keyboard or mouse controls or both, either way. Some kids last year made 2-player games, and one person would control one sprite with the keyboard and the other person would control another sprite with the mouse. Or you could do like WASD controls for one sprite and the arrow keys for the other sprite. Making sure that your sprites interact, right? What happens when 2 sprites touch each other? Can your sprites jump through each other? You probably don't want that to happen. Do you want one's location to update? Do you want the score to change, a life to change when they touch? What do you want to happen there? Reviewing your game, look over the rubric and your project guide to make sure your game has everything it needs for a good grade. Have you included comments in your code? Do you use functions to organize your code and make it easier to read? Do the functions and variables have meaningful names? Are you using conditionals and sprite interactions to make the game more interesting? Right? And then bubble 13 is a brief reflection where you're answering these questions. And when you answer all those questions, click submit at the end. And so I can read your survey answers, and I don't get your name with your survey answers. It's totally anonymous. I promise it is. I've done this for years. And if you tell me that you hate me and you strongly disagree with computer science or whatever, right, it's not going to hurt my feelings from you as an individual. It will just hurt my feelings from the crowd, right? The anonymous crowd. So make sure you're getting this knocked out. Bubble 12 is where you review everything and do your test runs of your game to make sure everything's working the way you want it to iterate on it, etc. And then when we do the game jam, you'll be sharing this link right here with everyone on a Google slide. But again, don't worry about that until you are finished with your project completely. And we are to our game jam week. Right, you'll have 2 weeks to complete your project, so I expect great things. That's plenty of time to make a really good game. And, I hope you have fun doing it. It's a creative process, and I respect that because I'm a creative person myself. Hope you enjoy doing this project, and I look forward to playing the game that you make.